Packing House Restaurant, 900 East Layton Avenue. Now open 7 days a week, serving steaks, shrimp, seafood, and fresh salads. Over 1 dozen entrees, soups, and sandwiches available for drive-through or curbside pickup. 7 days a week from 3 p.m. until 8 p.m. and 11 a.m. until 9 p.m. for our cash-only Friday fish fry drive-through. Full menu available with 24 hours notice. Don't forget the appetizers and desserts, bacon-wrapped water chestnuts, crab-stuffed mushrooms, banana cream pie, tiramisu, and cheesecake, all baked from scratch. Call us at 414-483-5054 to place your drive-through or curbside order today. Visit us online at packinghousemke.com. Join Milwaukee Film virtually for the Minority Health Film Festival, presented by the Froedtert and the Medical College of Wisconsin Health Network, taking place September 10th through 24th. Watch 50 films plus conversations about the health and well-being of families, communities, and institutions. Festival passes are on sale now at mkefilm.org/MHFF. The Forum, exclusively on Facebook Live, Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. until 10 a.m. Central Standard Time, covering topics from local, national, and everything in between. It may not be what you expect to hear, but we will definitely give you what you need to know. That's The Forum, exclusively on Facebook Live. Call in 414-395-0484. There's liberal news, there's conservative news, and then there's the truth. Join us for the truth. Good morning. Welcome to the program. Labor Day, Monday, September 7, 2020. So the defund the police thing that you old crazy lefty liberals came up with is really not a new concept. And I want to dive a little bit deeper into that because I'm seeing that phrase dominate the presidential election, the contest between the candidates. And if you've noticed, Donald Trump has totally moved away from anything related to the coronavirus other than saying there's going to be some kind of vaccine available way sooner than it should be. But he's not making that a cornerstone of his argument for re-election. But there's a couple of other things that I want folks to be able to pay attention to because you have to read between the lines because presidential elections and contests are not what they used to be. And you can speak covertly to your base and just speak to those people instead of trying to unite the entire country, instead of trying to bring the entire country together, because Trump is not trying to win an election. Donald Trump is trying to remain in power. There is a difference. If you are trying to win an election, you are going to talk about and discuss themes that will garner you more popular support. Even if it means bending what your normal platform is, even if it means straying away from what your party platform is, winning an election is trying to get as many people on your side as possible by appealing to so many different groups. And we've seen other presidential candidates do that. The closer we get to the election, the more Donald Trump is doubling down and talking to his base, like the people that went on the boats. Did you see the Trump boats? And then the big boats that the rich people have, those are big Trump boats, and they were going really fast. And then when big boats go fast, they leave a wake, and then all the little small boats capsize because the big boats are more important. And when the small boats were out there capsizing and getting flipped upside down because the big boats that caused the huge wake, the little boats were like, "Oh my God, save us!" And then there's people on the shore saying, "No, all boats matter. We'll save the big boats first because all boats matter." It's kind of funny. They set themselves up for that. But Donald Trump is not trying to win an election. He's not trying to get more people into his tent. He's not, trying to talk about what his second term is going to consist of, because if people didn't like his first term, and I'm one of the people that did not like Donald Trump's first term, maybe he would give you something in his second term worth voting for, but you got to notice that he is not doing that. He has shifted a lot of the focus of the campaign on, how the Democrats want to defund the police. And then a few weeks ago, he was talking about these suburban house moms, housewife ladies, that they want to be safe. It's a law and order kind of theme. And so if the Democrats are saying defund the police, Trump would rather capitalize off of that to stay in power than to talk about what he'll do in a second term or to try and get more voters on his side. There's so much miscommunication in our politics that we can't even have a conversation in the English language with someone who supports Donald Trump. And I won't dare call those people Republicans, because Trump supporters are wholly different. They're cut from a different cloth. Defunding the police is something that has been happening. I mean, I've got stuff like articles here that go back 20 years. Actually, 1995. There's one that goes back to 1973. Defunding the police has been an accounting measure that has been used for a full generation, if not longer than that. If your sheriff's department has the capacity and is funded better through property tax dollars through a whole county, there are sheriff's departments that take over local police departments. You're defunding your local police department so that law enforcement activities and duties are executed by the sheriff's department. And there's nothing new about that. And it never was controversial until now. But here's where it gets interesting. When we say defund the police, we don't necessarily mean lay off all the cops. So when you call 911, when you need an emergency, they don't show up because they're not there. When we say police, we mean the verb of policing. It is the verb of policing that is killing people, not police as individual people, because we can very easily say, oh, not all the cops are bad. We still want good cops. In fact, we like them, but good cops are scared too. People think that because you're a police officer and you're on the force and maybe you're a lieutenant, you're a sergeant, whatever your rank is, a captain, that if you're on the police department, you are thoroughly involved or a part of the brotherhood. Not necessarily. You ever talk to a black cop that's trying to do the right thing and trying to be a good cop? Because white cops, when they go into white neighborhoods, can be officer friendly. They can see a situation where really everybody could go to jail. When this white cop pulls up and they want to be officer friendly, what's happening at that scene? Maybe it's a fight, maybe it's something else where it would be warranted to arrest everybody. That cop will say, you guys just calm down. They'll issue those warnings. If I have to come back out here, then everybody's going to jail. And they say, okay, officer friendly. If a black cop stumbles upon a situation where it could be legitimate, the officer using his or her discretion could say, I can choose to arrest all of you, or I can talk to you guys. I can get your side of the story, your side of the story. We can de-escalate and everybody goes back in the house. And then that black cop that would issue the same warning as the white cop, if I have to come back out here again, I'm taking everybody to jail. And I know everybody who's listening to this broadcast has heard a cop say that before. If I got, like your parents warning you, if I got to come in here one more time, kids, and tell ya. But when a black cop wants to do that, they're frowned upon because it's almost like they're expected to arrest all the black people. And you have an African-American cop that may patrol a diverse district where there's, white people, black people, Hispanic people, Asian people. The black cop that's trying to be officer friendly may find himself or herself, and I've heard this from police officers that don't want to talk publicly about it, but disclose this information to me in hopes that I discuss it and give their point of view. That black cop trying to be a good person, trying to see both sides of the story and not just arrest everything black that they see, that cop may find themselves in a bit of trouble. They're pulling somebody over, maybe there's more people in the car than they had anticipated. There's maybe a felony warrant that's registered to the license plate, the operator of the vehicle. And that cop, going by his or her training, may say, you know what, I'm going to wait until backup gets here before I approach this vehicle, which is a felony stop with multiple occupants in the car. And then the cop can see everybody shuffling around. It is smart. It is also good training. not to approach that vehicle until backup comes. But what happens is this, and this is a black cop who may have a fair amount of rank in the department, and we want to judge that black cop like we judge all the other police. When they call for backup, backup doesn't come. If you are a good police officer and you want to stick to your training and you want to help more than you hurt, you want to assist more than you want to arrest, other cops will leave you out there by yourself. And if you think that it is required that when a cop calls for backup, that squads in the vicinity have to go and help them, you are wrong. Because what if there's a disciplinary action that's filed against the cops that didn't help a fellow officer? Black cop doing the right thing, felony stop, they need backup. Backup is like, screw you, we're not helping you. You're trying to make us look bad by being a good cop. Imagine that. And then the good cop files a complaint, complains to his or her supervisor and says, look, I had a felony stop. By my training, I'm supposed to call for backup. Backup didn't come. Here are the officers and the other squads that were in the vicinity. They didn't come. And then they start the disciplinary proceedings because some higher ranking cop would be like, hey, you can't do that. They call for backup. They had legitimate reasons to do so. It's on page 17 of your training manual. And now you got a bit of a grievance. And those cops that didn't show up to back up that black cop, that's a good cop, now take their complaint to the union. And then it magically disappears. That happens minute by minute, hour by hour, day by day. So even the good cops that want to do the right thing don't get respected by other police officers on the force. And that's the issue. That is the act of policing that we want to defund. It is the aggressive nature of it. It's how policing can go from a routine traffic stop, even though there really aren't any routine traffic stops, to someone getting shot. It is that in which we want to defund. Or if there's a situation where someone is, I don't know, naked and on the ground and they end up getting shot. It is that act of policing that is violent. That is what we want to defund. And when I say defund, there are other people, agencies, organizations, trained professionals that can better handle those scenarios than a cop with a gun. Because if you're a hammer, a lot of these situations just look like nails. Goddamn fly in here. Fly, you're lucky I'm on the air. It's a big motherfucker. Damn it. This is what you get when I broadcast live. It is the act of policing that we want to defund, because if we can identify other people, other agencies, maybe it's a mental health crisis, whatever it is, it's a substance abuse issue where, sometimes depending upon the substance that people are on, their behavior can be erratic. Let me close the door so the fly doesn't get in my kitchen. Hang on. God, now I hear it buzzing. I'm so distracted by this goddamn fly. Hang on, guys. I swear I'm gonna get it together. Okay. The act of policing where there are other agencies that are better trained and better equipped to deal with those scenarios is what we're trying to defund. But because we're talking about the verb, the action word of policing, not police individual officers, because we want more officers in a lot of cases. We want our response times to emergencies to be shorter, and you only get that when you have enough police officers. But if they are short labor, right, manpower and woman power on the police force, because they're answering calls or responding to situations where other qualified professionals could be best utilized, then that slows down the response times for emergencies. And it's just this huge, terrible spiral. So that's what we're talking about. But because Trump supporters don't understand the verb of policing, they see it as individual police are going to get fired. But you also have to wonder, especially in a community like Milwaukee, because one thing that old school Republicans, and I don't even know if they exist anymore, because now old school Republicans are Biden supporters. So if you were a Reagan Republican, you're voting for Joe Biden. So I don't know what these new people are, but old school Republicans would say, okay, an old school Republican, let's say from Waukesha, would say, all right, I live in Waukesha, and Milwaukee has a lot of problems because Waukesha always has their eyes on Milwaukee because they wish they lived here. They wish they had the amenities and attractions and opportunities of an urban setting, but their fear of black and brown people move them out to Waukesha. And so they're always fantasizing about coming back. And you can actually see it. The number of condos that have been built along the Milwaukee River, including the River Walk itself, were built for people that moved out to the suburbs, raised their kids, regretted moving to the suburbs, and want to come back to the city as empty nesters so they can go to the theater, so they can go to Bucks games, Brewers games, whatever the case may be. So they want to come back. But then you have to wonder, how did they go from respecting local control? Because somebody from another county can say, yeah, I may not like what's happening in Milwaukee, but the people in Milwaukee have a right to decide what their outcomes are going to be when it comes to public safety, when it comes to policing, when it comes to schools. Other municipalities and other counties never really weighed in on other local units of government. They respected local control. We may not like how they do things in Mequon. I may see how they're, using policy in Mequon for how they pave their roads or how they plow their snow. I can be like, oh, I disagree with that, but I don't care, because they can make their own decisions for their own communities. Republicans no longer respect that. And then it goes into this deep affection, this fetish they have for the police. Like, we back the blue, and it's all over the place. Of course, we know you support your police officers in your local department because your kids go to school with their kids. They might be your next door neighbors. So you don't need to say that. It goes without saying. It's like having a straight pride parade. Because in America, being straight is just the default setting for 90% of the people, you don't need a parade when being straight is the default setting. That's like, you don't need a White History Month, because in America, history is already white. It's Eastern and Western European. It's how they came over to America. It's glorifying Christopher Columbus. So you don't need a White History Month. It's the default setting, dummy. But why do they love the police so much? Why do they get scared when we here in the city of Milwaukee say defund the police, but we're using the verb defund, not the noun of actual individual coppers? Because there's something that people can count on, okay? If you are afraid of Black people, you have to wonder where that fear comes from. Either they were manipulated by the media, or maybe they've genuinely had bad experiences with every Black person they've ever come in contact with. Maybe that's possible, but then you got to dig even deeper than that, because a lot of those people have their bad experiences with Black people because they're somewhere in the central city buying dope and they get robbed, and they get robbed by a Black guy or by a Black woman. But we don't say, why were you buying dope? They're saying, I got robbed by somebody Black. Now I don't like Black people. They don't tell you that their bad experiences come from them doing bad stuff, but that's another conversation. But why do somebody from somewhere else, Dodge County or Walworth County or Elm Grove, why do they give so much support to the police? Did you guys see some of the photos that have been posted? Well, we don't really talk about him anymore because he's a has-been, but the former police chief, Alfonso Morales, would go to Trump rallies. He went to a Trump rally in Oshkosh a couple of weeks ago, and there's photographs of him. And then former police chief Alfonso Morales, he also was at a Back the Badge, Back the Blue, something in West Dallas. These places are out of the jurisdiction where Alfonso Morales was a police chief. So why would these people from other places, one in the Fox Valley, for God's sake, why would Alfonso Morales be celebrated way far away from home? And there's a connection here, and Donald Trump is going to capitalize off of this connection. And a lot of us probably don't give the respect, and I understand rightfully so, to the Trump supporters and why they feel the way they do. But once we understand them, it is so much easier to not just defeat them. It's not about winning an election, guys. It is about making sure that what we are living through right now, because it was this weird perfect storm of horrible politics and a resurgence of racism that we really first saw during Charlottesville. And then you have a pandemic, but the pandemic doesn't matter because we are not going to take direction or guidance from an administration that has already proven itself unworthy to lead. And so it was this perfect storm. So this is not just about defeating Trump supporters. It is to make sure that they and their politics never exist again, or at least not in America. So you don't think that you're just going to go vote. There's going to have to be a commitment. When I say a commitment, we're going to have to be as committed as Germany was to extinguishing the Nazis. You fly a Nazi flag in Germany now, it's a felony. They don't play with it. You're going to jail. They were incessant about how they taught the Holocaust to generations of people and children in Germany, so it never happens again. Because what happens is you'll have the war, you'll have the terrible series of events, you'll talk about it a little bit, and then you pretend like, oh, that's gone, that was a long time ago. We do that with slavery. If you don't really teach the details of it and the economics of it and how it has long-lasting social and political durability even to this day, then those things will return. We have to make sure that this era of American politics never comes back. And I say that because as time goes on and the world becomes more diverse, Trumpism will be even more dangerous. So we have to make sure it doesn't exist again. So we have to know what goes into some of their thinking in their political calculus, if you even want to call it that. But their affection for the police is at the center of it because Donald Trump has changed the scope and course of his campaign to be very much law and order, which is ridiculous because under him, there is no law and there is no order. You can just take one simple example, the number of people that have gone to prison because of their affiliation with him, individual number one. So he can't claim law and order, but he's taking advantage of people that have a real myopic, narrow-minded view of diversity of people of color and of urban areas. And all Trump is doing is taking advantage of them. He's taking advantage of them right in front of their faces. He's going to cut their Social Security. He's going to end disability, which is a disproportionate number of those poor white folks who vote for Republicans are utilizing those benefits. And he's giving tax cuts to rich people and won't even give the poorest of his supporters a $1,200 second stimulus payment. He is playing them, but they don't see it because if you're getting played, you don't know. You don't know until after you break up. All your friends could be telling you that your mate is cheating on you, but you don't believe it. They're just jealous. No, you're a sucker, but I digress. Their almost universal support for the police and for law enforcement is because the culture of policing in this country is pretty much the same everywhere. African Americans are considered dangerous by skin color. We are more likely, doesn't matter where you're at in America, if you're Black, you're more likely to be pulled over, stopped, racially profiled, shot, killed, found guilty, and get a longer sentence. That's anywhere in America. Now, the severity of the statistics may vary, but anywhere in this country, you're going to get that. Meaning, if there are white people who want to venture into an urban area because, cities are fun and there's stuff to do here, they want to know that that culture of policing remains consistent, that if they get attacked by some monstrous Black man or Black woman, that the police in that area are going to protect them, that policing remains heavily biased when it comes to race. That's why somebody from Oshkosh can love a Milwaukee cop. That's why somebody from Whitewater can love a Waukesha cop. That's how somebody who lives in the Brewers Hill or River West neighborhood can love the police, because as white people, that is their military. It is their social military that protects them and protects their property. That's why they love the police. And Donald Trump is capitalizing off of that, because police and policing is like proxy for I'll arrest the Black people first. And if they try to reach for something, I'll shoot them. You don't have anything to worry about. Waukesha residents, by all means, enjoy a Bucks game. Well, back when we used to have them. That's how that goes. And we have to understand that. Alden Higgins, my stepfather, is a sheriff's deputy in Mississippi, and told me stories that he and other deputies were told not to ticket any person white. Believe it. Diane Thomas, good morning. Eileen Seeger, you are working? Of course. Even though it's Labor Day, it's hard to not. First of all, I like doing this. I like chatting with you all every morning. But when your office is, 15, 20 feet from your bedroom, it's kind of hard to say, I'm going to take a day off. I have the rest of the day to do Sherwin things. and I probably will. But no, this was an important conversation to have today because, Labor Day, right? Everybody's at home. Well, you probably would have been at home anyway. But also, we have a couple of visits. Mike Pence, Vice President Mike Pence, is going to be in La Crosse today. And then Kamala Harris is going to be in Milwaukee meeting with small and Black business owners. And for those of you that thought at least the Democratic ticket wasn't coming to Wisconsin enough, you're going to get your wish because we very well may be inundated with them. Because we here in Wisconsin, at least in Milwaukee, didn't shut up about Hillary Clinton not coming to Milwaukee. We didn't. And we didn't. We didn't shut up about it. We just, she didn't come here. Just kept going. And I get it. Rightfully so, right? And so the Democratic National Committee listened. Because we can't, we just didn't forgive either her or her campaign or the party. We just wanted to scapegoat something. I don't know if Hillary Clinton would have won anyway. I really don't know. Had she come here, hindsight is always 20/20. We can simplify it and say, had she come here, she would have won. Hillary Clinton could have come to Wisconsin in 2016 and screwed up more. She could have gaffed. She could have said something racially insensitive. So we don't know. But it's easy to blame somebody when they don't do something. It's always woulda, coulda, shoulda. So because we kept going on and on and on about her not coming, the Democratic National Committee was like, fine, we'll give you the convention. If you look at the list of cities that were contenders, I think, was it Houston? Houston was one. Houston is an up and coming city, and there's going to be a point in time in our lifetime when Trumpism is extinguished, Texas will be a blue state. And then the Democrats are just going to run politics for the next 30 years because there are young people right now, not even of voting age yet, but are watching the world. Okay. You got to keep this in mind because it's always the youth. They're watching this. And some of them are very upset because they're too young to vote. Some of them might be voting for the very first time. Many of them may have been out there protesting. The number of white kids that I saw chanting Black Lives Matter was eerie to me. I was like, do you mean it? It's like, what is this? Like little towns like Plymouth, I get notifications that there's a Black Lives Matter protest in Sheboygan and all sorts of weird places. And so you got to be mindful of that because there are people that may not know the intricate details of how we got to this point, but they know one thing. They'll never vote for a Republican in their lives. And there are some people who came out of the ethos of the 60s, okay? Civil rights movement, white folks. Maybe they were hippies, maybe they weren't. Maybe they're anti-war Vietnam protesters. Some of them peeled off and voted for Reagan, but a lot of them committed then. They would never vote for Richard Nixon or anyone affiliated with the Republican Party ever. So we are now raising another generation of Americans that are going to reject even moderate, sensible, compassionate Republicans if those even exist. They're never going to vote ever for a Republican. And Trump is basically betting the farm on that. They can't have a future because of what we can easily attribute and articulate this current situation we're in America, economically, socially. The number of people that are getting evicted, they're going to blame Republicans. The people that need their second stimulus check and they're not going to get it, they're blaming Republicans. The number of people that can no longer afford their health insurance or the Affordable Care Act being overturned, they're going to blame Republicans. And I can go on down that list forever. Policing and not committing to reforming policing, they're going to blame Republicans. There's 30, 40, 50, 100 different agenda items where I could sit here and take all day and blame Republicans. And it only takes one of those agenda items to change somebody's mind forever. Wanting to defund Social Security, wanting to get rid of Social Security disability insurance, blame Republicans. And so they have a problem. And there will be a point where they will not be able to win elections. But where it really matters is at the local level, but also the judiciary. The other thing that the Republicans have, whatever they are now, have really bested Democrats on is wanting to solidify the courts. Udell Harris, good morning. Sorry I'm late. Don't worry, Udell. It's Labor Day. You're entitled to be late. Michael A. Lott, I live in Sheboygan. It's a small town with good black people, as opposed to a small town with bad black people. It's probably difficult to live in a small town that's majority white and be a bad black person because they're going to blame me for everything. They'll blame me for the weather. Alden Higgins, I read that already. Alden. Ronald Gergen says, I am listening. Good morning, Ronald. So you're going to get to a point where the Republicans are not going to be able to win any elections anymore because they are solidifying who and what they are because they lined up behind Trump. They sacrificed their Republican credentials and their real attention to detail and policy to support Donald Trump. And so that's going to be marked in stone, right? So there's no point in history where people are not going to remember this year and remember Trumpism and remember those that were more loyal to him than they were to, the Republic and the Constitution and all those other things. Folks are not going to forget that. I know I certainly won't. And we're all going to be charged with making sure that this era never happens again, right? So we'll get to a point where they won't have lawmakers. Nobody's going to vote for a Republican, right? But here's what they do have, because they know this. They're so far ahead of us because Democrats are just want to fall in love with their candidates. Republicans are strategic and they'll vote for crappy people because those crappy Republicans have a set of instructions and marching orders once they get into executive level or even legislative level positions. Their thing is, we need to get the courts because you can't control a legislature nor an executive unless you control the courts. And the courts, because the terms are more durable. I need you guys to follow me on this because this is for the fate of the world here and I'm not messing around. A position on the state Supreme Court in Wisconsin. I don't know what it is in other places. In other places, I think state Supreme Court justices may get appointed. Well, we elect ours here, which means we have an opportunity to have judges on the state Supreme Court reflective of our political climate, the ebb and the flow, the swing of the pendulum from Democrat to Republican, okay? So we get to vote to put our preferred justices on the state Supreme Court. And the way we do it is about as smart as we can because it's nonpartisan. They can't do direct solicitations for contributions. So we try and lessen the corruption, even though there still is corruption. They can't legislate from the bench. They can't tell you how they would decide on this case or that case. Because when they're out on the campaign trail, people will ask them, well, there's going to be a case coming in front of you, candidate for Supreme Court. How are you going to decide? They don't ever answer that question. If they do, they can have an ethics violation. So they try to run their campaigns as ethically as possible, which makes them extremely boring. But the terms are for 10 years. As opposed to a member of Congress or a member of the state assembly, those are only 2-year terms. The courts are more durable. So if you can control the courts or help certain judges with particular philosophies get on the court, their judicial philosophy will outlive the strength of your party. Donald Trump is sinking the Republican Party permanently. There are people that will never vote for a Republican. I mean, there's 11-year-olds that are watching what is going on. And one thing they're picking up is that the Republicans are doing all this. They can't go back to school. They can't see their friends. They miss their teachers because the Republicans screwed up the coronavirus pandemic. And they all shared the blame. And everyone that supported Trump and wanted to reopen early and screwed everything up, there are people that are never going to vote for Republicans. But you know what's going to happen when that 11-year-old becomes 18, becomes 21, becomes 25? Justices that were put on the federal bench, those are lifetime appointments, are still going to be there. So even though Trumpism will fade, it will end. The stains he is permanently leaving on our Constitution, our Republic, and our democracy are going to be around long after people stop voting for Republicans. Greg, Erica Turner, I'd imagine that's probably the two of you, Greg and Erica Turner. Oh yeah, it's tough being the quote only in a small white town. You are either the exceptional black person or the only one standing that fits the description. Yeah, a lot of white folks don't understand that. I'm also starting to see that, our white friends and our white allies, God bless them, because if you're down for the cause now, you've lost a lot of white friends. You've had arguments with your family members. So if you're white and woke, is to be kind of alone in white spaces because, white folks are, it's not all, but they're really clinging to their whiteness because they think that's what's going to save them. The whole thing was an illusion. I mean, they don't know that yet, but they'll know. But this is a good learning experience for America. Clinging to your whiteness devolves the country, which means that the whiteness you were clinging to didn't even exist. It was a fable, but more on that later. Republican voters, former Republican voters that know they're going to be losing their majorities, they're going to lose because the country's becoming more diverse. Okay. And so as the country gets more diverse, you're not creating more Republicans, you're creating more liberals. As time goes on, the political philosophies of the young, like there's not a burgeoning crop of young Trumpers. I mean, they exist, but compare this new crop of young, motivated Trumpers, the young college Republicans, to the white people in small towns and the Black Lives Matter movement. And then you just have the propagation of Black and brown communities with the natural demographic shift of America. Race and politics are tied together. It's almost a one-to-one correlation. And I say that because maybe 2% of Black women are going to vote for Republicans. The other 98% have sense. So the browner the country gets, the more Democratic leaning it will become. Because even a Black person and a white person that makes a third person through the birds and the bees, because of how hypersensitive we are to race, a white person and a Black person makes a third person by listening to R&B music and drinking Hennessy, they're making another Black person, right? So just in the union of a white person and a Black person and then make a third person, and now there's three of them, 2/3 of that union is Black. Because biracial children are Black children, because America won't really let them see their white side. But sometimes I've noticed when, now I don't want to speak for all biracial people because that's got to be a tough existence, especially now, people force you to choose. They sometimes rebel against their Black side and they say, well, I'm part white too. And we, as Black people, we're like, we get it. But go to a Republican town hall meeting and then yell out, but I'm part white too. They're going to boo you out of the town hall meeting like they booed me. Our Black asses going to be out in the parking lot together. Charles Reeves says, good morning. Lisa M. Lisa, am I saying your last name right? Mueller or is it Miller? I know the UE pronunciation can be a couple of different ways. So yeah, they've always bested us on the courts because they know that after their ability to win, because that's why they're gerrymandering districts, because they can't win the raw vote total. That's why Donald Trump is not trying to win the election. He's trying to stay in power. Donald Trump they're being very specific about it. He's just trying to win the Electoral College because he knows he's not going to win the popular vote. Hillary Clinton won the popular vote, but don't let that fool you. She won the popular vote because in 2016, blue counties and cities had marijuana referenda on the ballot, which caused an already blue county or city that was already going to go for Hillary Clinton and already a blue state. It just increased the blueness of it. Like you can't get bluer than blue, right? So if the popular vote goes up by 2.8 million, if you put 10 or 15 different ballot referenda in really blue California counties to legalize recreational marijuana, you're going to get people that are going to come out and vote just for the referendum. But as long as they're there, they're going to vote for the Democratic candidate as well, because Democrats tend to be more in favor of legalizing marijuana than the Republicans. So it's a misnomer. The other thing about the Electoral College that people want disbanded, and I know they try and tell me stuff I already know, like Sherwin. And then I say, what? The Electoral College goes back to slavery. So does the Constitution, bucko. Do you know why corporations have personhood? You guys familiar with a Supreme Court decision called Citizens United? When John McCain and Russ Feingold were trying to work on campaign finance reform, because in the early 2000s, we saw the heavy influence of money and corporate money and big business money influencing election. influencing elections, plural. And so they wanted to do something about that. And then you had a Supreme Court decision it was during Obama's term. When was Citizens United? Maybe 2010, 2011-ish. And they said, no, corporations have free speech. That makes no sense, right? A corporation, even though corporations are created to be entities that are separate from the people that form them, they said, no, corporations are people. But this is not a new concept. Let me tell you how disgusting this country is, because y'all don't know. Come to find out that Sherwin has to be a history teacher. Were y'all homeschooled? No, let me not say that. 14th Amendment, the Reconstruction Amendments that give personhood, and they argue this in the 1890s, right? The Supreme lawyers, the Solicitor General, and this information came before the Supreme Court sometime after 1885, okay? They said, well, if we're going to give personhood to former slaves, if we're going to say that what was once 3/5 of a human being can be a person, then corporations can be people too. And they won that argument. The reason why corporations can now contribute unlimited amounts of money into the political system is because they used the constitutional amendment that gave me and my ancestry, that built the country, that gave us personhood, that said, well, if a black mongrel monster jungle bunny can be a human, so can a corporation. And the Supreme Court was like, you're right, because to them, and this was ironic, it was so ridiculous that black people could be recognized as people that they would also be ridiculous in saying that corporations can be recognized as people too. And it's why people form LLCs. You are creating another person on paper for business purposes, for tax write-offs. Isn't that screwed up? And so you have that philosophy that still exists in our conservative judiciary all throughout this country. The Federalist Society churns out and screens judges so that they can maintain that very old, antiquated view of the U.S. Constitution and be strict constitutionalists. Those that believe in these excessive powers given to the executive, the unitary executive theory, which Donald Trump doesn't know what it is, but he knows he loves it because it means this. And let me tell you the other big kicker here. Now, I don't really have a specific agenda to talk about today. We're just gonna freestyle. Unitary executive theory says when the president does something, it's not illegal because the president is the chief law enforcement officer in the country. A lot of folks don't know that. Congress is a law-making body. Congress makes the rules. Congress makes the laws. Congress appropriates the money. That's why Donald Trump can say, I want $35 billion for a wall, and Nancy Pelosi can legally, legitimately, and constitutionally say, screw you, sir, I have the purse. So it's Congress that can have the investigations, they can hold the hearings, they can decide what they want to fund. Now the executive has to sign off on it. But unitary executive theory means that when Congress is in one direction, right? Now it's the House, it could be the House and the Senate, and eventually it will be the Senate. I just don't know when we're going to get the majority in the Senate, but we're going to get it. And then the Republicans will not be able to get it back. An example I use to prove that point is from 1954. Was that Eisenhower's reelection, right? Because Eisenhower, right. So from Eisenhower's reelection in 1954 until 1994, when Newt Gingrich became Speaker of the House, the Democrats had the majority. From 1954 to 1994, Democrats had a solid majority because the country was just thoroughly rejecting whatever republicanism is for those, I don't know, generation and a half. Unitary executive theory says the president can do whatever he or she wants. And there'll be Supreme Court justices and lower courts that also believe in that erroneous philosophy, but it goes back to the same mode of thinking of if a black person can be a person, so can a corporation. It says that, and this is what's going to happen. Now we know what's going to happen. We're going to have a conversation about it. Whether you choose to accept it or not, essentially means whether you find me credible or not. But I'm going to tell you now, and I put it on these Facebook Lives, and I'll put it on the cloud, I'll put it on the YouTube, so you can go back and say, oh, snap, Sherwin was right. So I'm going to say it now. There are enough Supreme Court justices and lower courts that believe in the philosophy of the unitary executive. It's why Donald Trump has appointed more than 400 federal judges, and we don't even know their names. We'll know their names when they make the rulings, though. We don't know them now, but that's what he's been hard at work doing. It's why so many Republicans are willing to hold their noses and vote for him because of the judges he's putting on the courts. Because once Republicans lose legislatures and they can no longer cheat in gerrymandered districts, they're going to have judges on the bench. And remember, judicial terms are durable. Supreme Court there for life, the federal bench there for life. For life in the state of Wisconsin, a state Supreme Court justice has a 10-year term. They're durable. So once the Republicans are gone, their mark and their stain on our democracy, on our republic remains and lives on through the courts. We're going to have a bunch of you voting by mail. I don't want you to, but you're not going to listen. I know there's been people who've been voting by mail for a long time. It's different now. Post office is under attack for a reason. Again, it's leading to unitary executive theory. It means that Donald Trump can screw with whatever mechanism he wants. Even if Congress funds it, he can screw with it, because if it goes to the Supreme Court, if it goes to one of these lower courts, the justices that were appointed by Trump are going to side with him. You know, he has a loyalty test. There may be some judges that he appoints that are genuinely, fair and unbiased in their interpretations of the law, but the rest of them are not. I mean, think about this. How fair and unbiased are you when it comes to the common sense of a Trump supporter? Not very. The judges aren't either. A bunch of you are going to vote by mail. Mail is going to be slowed down. The mail is already slowed down because they are testing how far they can slow the mail down now without seriously interrupting American commerce and people getting their government issued checks and benefits. So they're doing that now, and you know they are. Mail-in ballots, they're going to get sent out to you. You may have gotten your applications already. And you're going to take your time to fill it out and to send it back in, because you know the election is not until November 3rd. And some people, maybe 1% or 2%, maybe 5 or 6%, are not going to send their ballots in until the last minute, or they won't. Technically, if you have your mail-in ballot postmarked by election day, you're good. You've done your part. Your voice is going to be counted. You're listening to all these damn ads and commercials. Have your voice heard. Nowadays, you can't just vote to have your voice heard. You got to vote. You got to donate. You got to scream. You got to wear out several pairs of shoes protesting. So it's not just, I can just cast a vote and then walk away. No. You're in this. You all got skin in the game. Even our white allies, they're so tired of it, aren't they? Oh, Sherwin, I'm so tired of all this, Sherwin, all this. How do you do it? I love that when they say that. Like, Sherwin, I'm just so tired of all this. Because white people in this country that have been, decent people have never had to deal with racial issues like this ever. And it's exhausting. And they've only been black for 6 goddamn months. Oh my God, I wish I could take a break from all this. Welcome to how it sucks, doesn't it? I told y'all 4 years ago that Donald Trump was going to niggerize the whole country. And now what are white folks saying? I wish I could take a break. No breaks for you. No soup for you, no breaks for you. Good morning, Francine Hale. Kia JS says, wow. Margaret Chavez salutes, says vote early. Yeah, vote early, because here's what's going to happen. I keep getting sidetracked. I'm working harder on Labor Day than on a non-Labor Day. Unitary executive theory says you're gonna vote by mail. I'm gonna show you how it works, because they're already working this plan out. Because I know how the conservatives best us when it comes to looking forward, because they know the same demographic trends that we do. They're preparing for them. They know that there's going to be a majority of people of color in this country, a majority of voters, majority of Congress is going to be women and people of color. There's going to be more gay members of Congress, more transgender members of Congress, more Muslim members of Congress. Republicans know that, and they're planning for it. What Democrats are doing is waiting for it. Like, I can't wait till we. No, you got to plan for it, baby. Republicans are planning for it. That's why they're stacking the courts, so they can be protected once the Democrats, lefties, liberals, and progressives own and control the governor's offices, state legislatures, and Congress. So Democrats are waiting for that day. Republicans are dreading it, and they're planning ahead. It's like Republicans are putting away political stock in their 401k. Democrats are just going on a spending spree, right? Democrats get one Democratic socialist or a progressive elected to Congress. Oh, hell, we celebrate. Even though they can't do a damn thing, we celebrate. We spend all our money. Yay, we got one. We just celebrate like it's the second coming, don't we? Republicans go back to the drawing board and organize around the fact that more and more of those Democratic celebrations are taking place. We aren't leveraging the victories we're getting now for the future. We're just getting one and celebrating. Oh my God, we got another first woman elected to something, and we just party. Like, that's just where it begins. Like, we're building an army one troop at a time. Okay. Unitary executive theory says you're going to vote by mail. You're going to do what you think is the right thing and mail your ballot, have it postmarked by election day. You've done your part. Well, because you're going to have, in some counties, 90% of the people are going to be voting by mail, plus the other mail you get, the other letters that are sent and government issued checks and what even, and solicitations from Spectrum Cable. If you're listening, stop sending me stuff in the mail. I got rid of cable 11 years ago. I ain't going back. I pay $30 a month for Sling and I got like twice as many channels as cable. Stop. So you're going to have all your ballots with all the people turning their ballots in, getting them postmarked legally by the correct date by November 3rd. I hope I didn't say November 4th. And then the mail is going to be overburdened, okay? And there's going to be ballots coming in for the next 2 weeks, because we saw that here before they were really putting their foot forward and intentionally slowing down and tampering with mail delivery systems in April. The number of people whose ballots came, and I saw postal workers here in this city took pictures and sent them to me of ballots that came after the April 7th election that were never counted, because just in the random functioning of the post office, sometimes mail is delayed. And then when you cut overtime for postal workers because it's not efficient and you got to save money, mail is going to get delayed. And so you're going to have ballots that should have been counted for the presidential election on November 3rd that may roll in up to a week or 2 weeks later. What unitary executive theory allows Donald Trump to do, and he will have the backing of the U.S. Supreme Court, and he's going to set a date. The date might be arbitrary. It might be November 7th, might be November 10th, might be November 11th. In fact, if we get any day past November 5th or 6th, consider it a gift, because we're not going to know the full and total results of the presidential election of 2020 until well after November 3rd. It's not going to be like what we're used to, where by 7 o'clock the polls close here and then you see the red state. Oh, we're going to call Ohio. We're going to call Pennsylvania's. We're going to call some weird district in Maine. It's not going to be that, because the number of mail-in ballots have not even arrived yet, let alone have they been opened, have they been checked to make sure that they're legitimate and then fed through a voting machine. That's going to take weeks. There's a California county, I think it's Orange. Is it Orange County? Oh, I just saw the thing yesterday. They're expecting 90% of their voters to vote by mail, and they are allowing ballots to come in for a full 4 weeks after the election just because of routine mail delays. They believe they can have all the ballots counted in 2 weeks, but they plan for a full 4 weeks. Donald Trump is not going to allow mail-in ballots to be counted after election day, even though, as long as your ballot is postmarked by election day, it's legitimate. But Trump can say, we're going to have a date of November 5th or 6th to where any ballot that comes in after that ain't going to get counted. That's how he's going to win. You don't have to believe me, but if you can't sacrifice your single day, really 2 weeks in Wisconsin. I don't know where some of you people are listening from. Early voting starts October 20th in Wisconsin. I'm sorry, in Milwaukee. If you can't find time between October 20th and November 1st, and you have another chance, if you don't vote early, but in those 2 weeks, you can vote on November 3rd in person. But if you can't find the time in a day in those 2 weeks or on election day, then you are sacrificing the next 4 years. I'm just asking you to take time out of a single day out of 15 days to go and vote. Then you don't have to worry about mail-in ballots coming to the register, to the central count office November 14th or November 15th or November 16th. You don't have to worry about that because you already done voted early and on election day. Do not vote by mail. The post office is being slowed down intentionally so that there can be a bulk of mail-in ballots still not delivered, still not counted, and Donald Trump can call the date in which ballots can no longer be counted, and the Supreme Court is going to have his back. How do I know? Because when things weren't this bad 20 years ago in Florida in the year 2000, as soon as George Bush, whose brother was governor at the time, Jeb Bush, they were doing, remember the hanging Chads and the butterfly Chads? And I don't even know who the hell Chad is, but Chad was involved in the election and Chad's butterflies were hanging. When George W. Bush got up by 528, 527, 529 votes, they stopped counting. And I don't know how many electoral votes Florida was 2, almost 3 censuses ago. But whatever their electoral college count number was, in the year 2000, George W. Bush needed it. And they were counting, they didn't count all the votes, you know that? They just counted until George Bush was up. And then guess what happened? The Supreme Court came in and said, yeah, the president can do that. Unitary executive theory was, I don't want to say it was introduced, but it was really fortified by a guy named Dick Cheney. And its first real use that had national political consequences when the U.S. Supreme Court said, stop counting the votes. We don't care if Al Gore really won the election. Al Gore won that popular vote too, doesn't matter. Trump is going to do that. And it's easy for him to do it because it's already been done and it paid off for a Republican. So that isn't even new. Here's the thing as Democrats, we have to know that. We can't just wait for better days to come. We have to reach into the future with knowledge and with critical thinking and steal the future. Nobody's going to give it to us. Nobody's going to be like, oh, well, one day things are going to be better. No. Got to do that now. Alden Higgins says, niggerize the country. It's terrible. I told white folks, you're not going to like this. And then the white folks that didn't want to get niggerizing is when you just see so much injustice and you feel helpless, you get depressed. It saddens you and you wish that it wasn't like this and it's just not fair. And it's very stressful because I think we're seeing a newer, different generation of Caucasians deal with race in a way that they didn't have to before. And it wears you out. And they're like, oh, Sherwin, you need a break. And somebody said, can't take a break. I got skin in the game. Good morning, Walter. Walt Lanier says, ugh, why aren't Dems more proactive? I don't know. First and foremost, we don't, and I gotta say it, right? We don't invest in our policies. We don't invest in our politicians. We raised a little bit of money for Aaron Perry, who's trying to remove a Republican from the state assembly, but it's still falling on deaf ears. Maybe it's because we're commonsensical. Because if you look at the list of things that Democrats want, good, well-funded schools, infrastructure, a commitment to clean air and water, voting rights, civil rights, fair wages, protections on the job. It's so common sense that we don't think we need to invest our money in politics and campaigns and in politicians that are going to fight to do the right thing, because it all is common sense. So if something is common sense, why would you need to contribute to a candidate they're a Democrat and they're going to do the right thing? Because the other side that has intentions of doing the wrong thing will invest their money in politics and policies and in campaigns. You see how that works? We just believe because these things it makes sense for us to have clean air and clean water. We're not thinking about there are businesses that don't want to be under the thumb of regulation because it's going to cost them more. Whenever you tell a coal plant they have to do something with their emissions, they have to do upgraded machinery and equipment, and that costs them a lot of money. And so this is just one example. So if this coal plant is under the thumb of these heavy Democratic regulations because they have to stop spewing stuff that causes cancer into the air, then that coal company that makes billions and billions of dollars, because we have a need for energy in this country, they won't have as much money to contribute to Republican political campaigns. That is why there's an easing of regulation, because regulation requires change. Change requires an upgrade. It requires new equipment. It requires new staff people that have a different type of education that are working in your companies. And those businesses don't want to invest in that. And so what they're doing is they're going to support Republicans that won't require them to adhere to these regulations. And in return, the business is not spending that money on upgrading and adhering to regulations. Give that money to Republican candidates. It's really simple, and they do it in plain sight. There's races that I know Democrats could win, but Democratic voters that want to see the right thing, that want the world to be better, that want policies to make sense, won't even give $5, because we've also been tainted into thinking that giving money to political campaigns is a Republican thing. It is, and that's why they win. You can be righteous all you want to, because remember, when you vote, you're just one vote. But if you contribute $50, that $50 can be outreach to 75 more voters, where you go and vote and you pat yourself on the back like you really did something. And let me not discourage you from voting, but now you have to not only vote, you got to vote the right way, you got to do the right thing, you got to vote early. But you also need to be engaged and involved, because it's lazy. It's such an American lazy. Well, I know I'm gonna vote for Biden. I don't know why everybody I'm mad at has a Southern accent. I'm gonna vote for him. That's all I'm gonna do. You gotta do more than that. Whatever you contribute, because I know how much money y'all spend on Starbucks. Whenever, and it's not us, whenever I see local news segments dedicated to its pumpkin spice season, and it's on the news. Pumpkin, Dunkin' Donuts got a pumpkin donut, and this pumpkin. How did that even come about? How did pumpkin become a cultural juggernaut? But they'll advertise pumpkin. It's pumpkin season. If you're gonna, it's just so ridiculous to me. You have money to contribute to a political campaign or a political cause that's going to do the right thing. And I know this so well because I am the only person, and they call it a dark money organization, but you guys know that I am the executive director of Leaders for a Better Community. It is mine. I raise money to help Democratic candidates get elected so they can do the right thing. But, it's a dark money organization. You nincompoop. It's not a dark money organization if you know who the damn executive director is. In those other organizations, you don't know who the people are. I hide in plain sight. Hold on, wait a minute. I think I'm playing with y'all. I'm sick of this. This is for the fate of the world. I got a commercial here somewhere. See, this is what I get to do when I run my own show, as opposed to when I work for somebody else's radio station. Hold on a second. We're just going to take all. Oh, there it is. Leaders for a Better Community has one mission: to improve the quality of our lives. We believe that every child deserves a quality education, healthcare should be affordable, every job should pay a living wage, and our neighborhood should be safe and secure. Your input on these issues is very important to us, and we'd love to hear from you. To share your thoughts, visit us at lbcmke.org. Join our fight for a better quality of life. That's lbcmke.org, paid for by Leaders for a Better Community. So when y'all buy pumpkin spice lattes and you don't want to contribute to Democratic candidates, Democratic causes, I got to try and raise a bunch of money so that we can have more Democrats that are doing the right thing in the legislature, on the Common Council, on the county board, because we believe our political stances and beliefs are common sense and are for the greater good, that Republicans are just automatically, no, Republicans are here to oppose that. to oppose us, to oppose what we think, to oppose common sense. Why haven't we figured that out yet? We have. We just pretend like they're going to wake up one day. No, they're not. They're in love. You ever have a friend, family member, or you be in love and so crazy in love that you lost your mind and your friends are trying to talk you out of it? Can't. You just got to let them be in love. And while they're in love, ruining the country, we have to plan like they do, right? All right, guys, I guess that's it. It's my new theme music, I think. I've settled on this song. I had to get rid of the Jay-Z because Jay-Z was getting mad. Thanks, guys. Have a wonderful Labor Day. And, contribute to the political cause of your choice, because we can't just vote. We got to do more. Have a great day.